What is up with it, everybody? Live from the studios of WIUR from the Murphy Center here on the Iona University campus in New Rochelle. Welcome back to Woolley Mammoth Mondays. I am your host, Cam Woolley, bringing you the best spot for sports on campus. So here we go, top of the hour here, just a smidge past 11 a.m. on Monday, October 6th, 2025. And I cannot remember a worse weekend for sports, just in general. Like yesterday, especially, was just awful. I can't even begin to comprehend. Like, no matter who you watch, it was just bad. If you're a Giants fan, if you're a Jets fan, most of your Sundays just suck in general if you're a Giants fan or a Jets fan, regardless. But if you're a Yankees fan or a Mets fan, well, if you're a Mets fan, life has just sucked in general since June. And if you're a Yankee fan, you just watch them get embarrassed and dragged around on turf by their division rivals in Toronto. Just a sad, putrid, pathetic, lifeless performance. And that's where we're going to start, because this is just sad. Like, I've seen a lot of Yankee playoff failures. Maybe I'll go in depth one day and I'll rank them once this series is officially over. It'll probably be over at some point within the next two games. I'm assuming it's going to be tomorrow night when the series ends, because frankly, I don't believe in these guys to turn it around and make this even remotely competitive, because there are two teams that are playing in the series. You have one team that cares, one team that's acting like they have something to prove, and then you have another team who's just waiting for luck to fall out of the sky. And this is the case every year. Like, you see these guys in their pressers, they talk about baseball, 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 baseball. This isn't baseball in the way that they are saying, where it's like, oh, that's baseball, Susan. It's a trend to a point where you can't blame baseball for the amount of failures that they have compounded in the postseason over this era of failure between Judge, Boone, Cashman. And I'll tell you this, I don't want to hear anybody say, I don't care how he's hitting this year. I know technically he's hitting over 400 and there's one dotting on his OPS. Judge is just stat padding in every sense of the word. There are certain litmus tests in sports where you can differentiate between box score watchers and people who actually pay attention to the games. This is one of the most obvious litmus tests of that, like, genre that we've seen in a while, at least in baseball, because people could look at what Judge is doing and say, oh, he's not the problem. He's not hitting that badly, until you realize that he's doing this in spots where it doesn't matter. With the bases loaded and nobody out in the top of the sixth inning in game one, I don't care what anybody says. That was the series. Judge coming up in a big spot where we know he has struggled, where we want to see him. It's every year. It's like when he comes up in a big spot, we know he's talented enough to where we're just hoping that he can break through just that one time, because for some reason, despite seeing him come up short time and time again in these spots, we still have this innate faith in him because he's such a talented player. We see him do it from April to September, but for some reason, when the calendar hits October, he just vanishes off the face of the earth. I don't know what it is. It's every year. Honestly, since 2020, Aaron Judge has done nothing but fail repeatedly in the postseason. It's a trend, and I don't want to hear a thing about how this regime is failing Judge. Judge is failing Judge. Sure, Boone and Cashman aren't helping. Sure, some of the players around him aren't helping. I'd love to see more out of especially guys like Trent Grisham and Cody Bellinger, who we expected to be contributors, maybe show up in the absence of a Judge regularly scheduled October vanishing. Because let's not forget, Grisham and Bellinger came up in those spots too. And they didn't do anything. Sure, I think Grisham walked, but Bellinger, like, yeah, he walked too, but Bellinger's hitting below 200. Grisham's hitting below 150. You want to see more from Ben Rice? Yeah, he hit a home run on his first at bat, but we haven't seen anything from him. It's just a repeated cycle of the same things happening with the same players. It's the culture. There is a culture of failure that has permeated, honestly, ever since they fired Joe Girardi, because that sent a clear message to the direction that this organization was heading in. They were heading in a direction of not expecting more out of their players and holding people accountable. They went in the direction of pleasing them and going in the modern approach of oh, be nice to the players, be this, be, and sure, you can be nice to the players when they show up. There's a track record here of players being mentally frail, soft, mentally incapable losers. There's no other way to describe it. They're losers. There are certain teams, not just in baseball, but in sports, who can be described that way. Every league has them who are just losers. Sure, they can be good on paper. They can be talented. And that's the worst part. The Yankees are very talented. I've said it all year. This is the deepest lineup in terms of talent level that they've had in this era. It was what made me talk myself into believing in them again. Which, shame on me, by the way. I don't know how I talked myself into this, because I always get suckered back in. Like earlier this summer, and I was doing a really good job of it too. By the time we hit July, I let go for a good 2 months. I was like, yep, I'm not being fooled again. I couldn't bring myself to get passionate about it. Sure, I brought myself to the point where I could make videos for Sports Grid and do the job that I do over there and make engaging stuff I could drum up enough anger to do that. But outside of that, I was just like, after I'd watch the game, I'd be like, whatever. And I'd just play Fortnite or something and I'd be fine. The Switch 2 came out in June. I was busy playing Mario Kart World. I couldn't bring myself to care. I had too much going on in my life to bring myself to inject that much energy toward that team during the summer. And then in September, they brought me back. They had that good run. They won that 3 out of 4 series stretch against the contending teams. And I suckered myself back in like I do every single year. And they punched me in the face again. I let go for a few months because I know them. I know how they work. And then I forget because I see a good run. And naturally, as a human being, I want to be optimistic, despite the way that I conduct myself on the internet, despite the shtick that I've curated for myself in my career. I want to believe. I go into every game one of every series being like, okay, we have a shot. And every second I watch for half an hour I watch, and I'm reminded why I've curated myself in this way. Because it's all this team gives me. All they give me is reasons to be cynical. I can't. But I know I am. I'm going to be sitting here, same spot next year, telling you guys I suckered myself back in again. They're just losers. like on an organizational level, I don't know what else I can say about Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner. They've made this once proud organization. They were the symbol of excellence and greatness. I was sold that as a kid, and they still sell us on being exceptional, on being second to none. And yet, all we hear from the players, the coaches, the executives, the ownership, all we hear is excuses. All we hear is bad luck. All we hear about is injuries and this, that, the third. I don't like saying this a lot, but George didn't talk about injuries. George, like, you know what? As much as we like talk about how impulsive George Steinbrenner was, we could use some of the energy of firing a manager every year. Because, hey, it worked. In the 70s, it worked. And then the 80s, they just got screwed over by a bad playoff system. It worked. Now they've made Yankee Stadium this tourist attraction where they're more concerned about ticket sales and the brand that was built on the backs of genuinely exceptional players who these guys have the nerve to equate themselves with. It makes me so mad. And I said this on my game one reaction for Sports Grid, which I highly recommend you check out. I said this. It is going to make me so just infuriated when I see Aaron Judge go into Monument Park and get a plaque and hear all of these reporters and journalists write all these puff pieces and make all these features about how he was this amazing player who won like 5 MVPs and put up all these numbers, how he was literally Ted Williams, when all he did in the big spots was fail. I'm going to have to, God willing, I'm at a point in my career where I'm going to go to that game and cover it and do all this stuff. And I'm going to say the same stuff that I'm saying right now, unless by some miracle he has some 2009 A-Rod run in him where he carries this team to a championship. I'm going to say the same thing. Like, I can't believe that we're going to hit a point where he's going to retire and he's like, people are going to put him on the Yankee Mount Rushmore. They're going to put him up there with exceptional, like all-time baseball gods like Ruth, Mantle, DiMaggio, Jeter, guys like that who delivered when it mattered. Put him up there with Reggie Jackson, Thurman Munson. He doesn't hold a candle to those guys. The fact that he's captain, when all he's done, clearly his leadership doesn't work. The example he's setting is clearly not the right one. He's more concerned, it seems to me that he is more concerned with making deals with Logan Paul to have like his own brand of Prime. Which, by the way, somewhere laying around, I think I have a bottle of Aaron Judge Prime that my ex-girlfriend gave me that I haven't opened, and I probably will never. I don't know. I might have thrown it away, but oh my God, dude, it's like all the brand deals. Like he doesn't care. He's making his nut. He's fine. I don't want to hear anybody talk about how he was failed. Because when we look at the playoffs, the last couple years, as much as we kill Anthony Volpe, he shows up and the captain, who's hailed as this all-time great baseball demigod, fails. That's food for thought next year. Just saying. The next time we see Judge put up some historic numbers and we see Anthony Volpe make an error in the field, I want everyone to remember how these guys performed when it mattered. Because you're never winning a championship when Anthony Volpe is the only guy who's actually showing up and hitting. Dear God, just abysmal, abysmal. I can't, but I am. I'm going to talk myself into it because I'm a naive idiot. Back after this.
Untouchable, unstoppable.
This is WIUR Sports Radio.
Hi, I'm Robbie Basil, president of WIUR Radio, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Have you ever wanted to call the biggest games, the biggest moments for the biggest names for Iona Athletics? Then the newly founded WIUR Sports Radio is the place to be. Launched in January of 2025, our goal is to try and get broadcasters here at Iona an opportunity to learn, succeed, and get a chance to be on air. From getting to call the big moments at the hack,
Dinkins trying to go to the rack. Denied. Yafet Mundi.
to seeing the crack of the bat at City Park.
The line drive into left field, around third, and it kicks away. The Gales are going to win it in 10.
We make those moments happen on our brand new WIUR Sports Radio platform on Mixer. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to me via email or to the rest of my e-board to join the club. We are WIUR Sports Radio, the new home of Iona Athletics. Now, back to the show on WIUR, Iona University Radio.
Interested in having your voice heard? Interested in hosting a show on WIUR? Email our president, Robbie Basil, or come by the station and we will help get you started. So I just thought of another point while we were in break about the whole Judge thing. And I'm comparing the two franchise faces for the two teams that are playing here. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. came up with the bases loaded in game 2. He hit a grand slam. Aaron Judge came up with the bases loaded and struck out. So just some food for thought there before we move on to another team who drove their fans up a wall, drove me up a wall, certainly made me crash out. The New York Football Giants. Oh my God. Okay. Just body slam back to reality. After last week, we thought maybe, just maybe, they were crawling out of the basement. Every year, we always have 1 week early in the season where we think we just might be crawling out of the absolute bottom of the NFL and American sports in general, where we think we might be slightly respectable and separate ourselves from the toilet. And then the next week, we're just shoved right back down there. And that was what happened on Sunday. We had the win against the Chargers with Jackson Dart. There was optimism. We were like, hey, we're going to start winning games. And then they follow that up they started really well. They were up 14-3. I was thinking, okay, dude, let's just blow these guys out and get out of here. And then they follow that up with 5 straight turnovers. 5 on their offensive possessions. That is, and you know who was the last team to do that? You got to go back to 2016, the last time a team turned the ball over on 5 straight drives. You know who did it? You know who was the last team to do that? The New York Jets was the last team who did that. So, of course, that's just the state of football in this wretched, cursed town that we live in. Like, I just want more than 1 week where we're out of the basement. It's like, I'm not even asking for us to be good. Do you have any idea how low the bar is? I'm not asking for you to be good. I'm not asking for you to even be so much as mid. I'm asking for you to be semi-competent. You can be bad for all I care. I'll take 7-10 or 6-11. I just want to not be the joke of sports for once in my life. 1 week, dude, I want to have a year where we can just be respectable. I want to crawl out of the basement. I want to be able to enjoy football. I want to be able to not turn on primetime games and watch Red Zone without growing immeasurably jealous of the product that I'm seeing from the 31 other teams in the league. Well, maybe 30 other teams, because, excluding the Jets, because who wants to be the Jets? Another team in New York, just amazing. But, oh my God. I mean, dude, Spencer Rattler had not won a single game as a starter, and he still had the nerve. He's felt confident enough to call out Shane Bowen's putrid scheme publicly. This is a guy who was 0-10 as a starter, whose team before yesterday was on a crash course for the number 1 overall pick, where they would probably draft his replacement. And he still felt confident enough. He felt the urge, and he got the green light in his brain to go, yeah, these guys don't throw disguises at us. These guys don't have the wrinkles that we've faced. We have a chance this week. And that's where the Giants are. They're the circle on the bad team schedules where they're like, hey, we better win this game, or else we're in really, really deep trouble. And if you look at the Chargers, they got outclassed by Washington this week. So, that's where the Giants are. We're the team where if you lose to us, you got to start thinking about firing people, because who loses to the Giants? Nobody loses to us, dude. If you lose to us, you're a disaster. You're a nightmare. You got to do some serious self-reflection if you lose to the Giants. That is the reputation that we've built for the rest of the league to observe. And the Saints, I'm sure they looked at that game where I'm sure their fans, and I don't really follow New Orleans sports, but I'm sure their radio stations were probably talking about this game as a, boy, if we're going to win any game, it's got to be this one. And they follow that up with 5 straight turnovers. I mean, Darius Slayton, there are plenty of people who I want to go after. And I know Dart and Scadaboo turned the ball over. They were responsible for 4 of those turnovers, but I know at least all of them, they're at least with Scadaboo, I know it's definitely an anomaly. Nothing can make me hate that guy, because I know he was on the sideline. He was sick to his stomach. And I know Dart, the same thing. He's sick to his stomach. I know the types of people they are. But Darius Slayton has ruined the vibes of this team on so many different occasions with his Vaseline coated hands, where he just either drops the ball or fumbles it. There were 2 times in this game in the first half where his hands just completely shifted the tide of this game. He had the deep shot on the flea flicker, or that wasn't the flea. The flea flicker was kind of on Dart, but I'll get to Dart a little later. But there was the deep shot where Dart fit it in between double coverage, 50 yards downfield, and Slayton had his hands on it and he just dropped it. Where have you heard this before? Darius Slayton dropping a big pass. And then he had that fumble where they were driving down the field off a missed field goal, where they probably would have scored a touchdown to go up 8 points at half, where they would have gotten the ball back. And honestly, if they probably would have scored after half, and they would have probably put the game away. But nope, can't have that. Darius Slayton on a catch where I was literally, as I was watching that, the words were about to come out of my mouth where I was like, oh, he actually caught the ball this time. As I was thinking that, the ball popped out. And of course, and that was when the crash out started. That was when the spiral like started for me mentally watching that game because I don't really lose it that much watching Giants games anymore because I've hit a point of acceptance. At least when I'm watching the games, I just go, whatever, man. Like I just it's like I'm like, what are you gonna do? But that was a game where I like kind of crash out because again, I was thinking, hey, this might be a turnaround. And sure enough, and that was one of those moments where it was the crash back down to reality. And like Darius Slayton, he's getting paid the same amount of money as Saquon Barkley, by the way. I don't know if there's a more internally overrated player in the NFL than Darius Slayton. He's getting paid legit wide receiver 2 money or like high end wide receiver 3, low end wide receiver 2 money to not even have sure hands. And that is the bare minimum for being a secondary option at receiver. Although now, because of our god awful turf, he's our wide receiver 1. And that's great. A wide receiver 1 who can't catch. That's amazing, man. I love it. And like, I just want to talk about Dart for a minute and this offensive line. Like, I'll give the offensive line credit for this. Dart had so much time to throw in this game, but there were so many dropbacks where I counted, and I'm sure like the all 22 is going to come out. I haven't seen all 22 Giants Twitter hop on this yet, but I'm probably going to see stuff where like Dart was maybe he missed a few open guys. Maybe he didn't go through his progressions enough. But I'm looking at this wide receiver room that has Jalen Hyatt and Bo Collins getting significant reps where I'm thinking I genuinely thought guys just weren't getting open. Dart had 5 seconds to throw and like on some of these plays. And I trust him enough to process plays enough where if he sees a guy open within his range to fire a good pass and complete it for a first down. And like I trust Dart. I've seen enough from these 2 games and he looked like, I know we're going to talk about the turnovers, but one of them was on 4th down. And like, I'm not really going to get on a quarterback for throwing a pick on 4th down because if you're going to throw an incomplete pass, it's going to be a turnover anyway. But like, and the second one was because Bo Collins, the undrafted free agent, Bo Collins, who's our wide receiver 3, who's getting significant reps now, just ran the wrong route because he wasn't drafted for a reason. And when you aren't good enough to get drafted, you tend to not run your route properly. And that's what happened. Bo Collins, he ran a bad route and Dart threw a pick. That's like, I trust Dart. I think he can be the guy. Like, he's shown a lot. Like, I like his athleticism. I like the way he moves around in the pocket. He's one of the very few, like, very bright spots on this team. I think, and I know there's the limitations with the arm strength. Again, that flea flicker where he kind of underthrew Slayton. But let's be honest, even if that ball was on target, the Slayton would have dropped it anyway. But I think Dart has the capability to be the guy. And I am begging whoever the next regime is, because these guys are cooked. And part of me kind of feels bad for Joe Shane because I think he's done a decent job with the personnel the last few years, or like the last couple years. I think he's learned a couple of lessons, but him and Dable are so tied at the hip to where he's gonna get fired. And I think those 2 are just a package deal and they're both going to get canned. But let's be honest, I don't know who's really going to want to come here to manage or coach this team because we've built a reputation as one of the worst places in the NFL. But who knows? Some of these guys, they don't care as long as they get a shot. And like, I just want the next guys to come in and trust Dart enough to where they don't feel like they have to get their guy. Because there's legit talent there, and I hope they can build around him because there's something to build around with him. Like, just shore up the interior offensive line, get better receivers, and I think this is a good offense, especially with Dart having better coaching and having better scheming and better personnel around him, I think he can be a pretty good quarterback. I think he has the upside to be a top 15 to maybe even top 12 quarterback. And we've shown that if you have a good enough roster around that guy, you can win. Like, there's bright spots on this team where I think with the right people to get the right personnel in place, there's something there. But again, we're talking about the Giants here. So like I doubt that it's gonna go well at all. But I mean, geez, man. Dart, like, I like him, and I hope that this franchise doesn't do what they did to Daniel Jones and just ruin him. And I'm sure we're gonna see a time in like 2032 where Dart gets picked up by another team and he goes on to have an MVP caliber season because he's going to an actually like decently run franchise. Because let's say like the Colts aren't a gold standard organization. They're just well run enough. And Daniel Jones got onto that team and he's a world beater. He's going to lead that team to a division title. He's probably going to lead them to the AFC Championship game. I can't wait for that nightmare to just keep unraveling in front of me. And Dart, like, just Godspeed, man. Dude, you're going to need it. We're rooting for you. Oh my God, dude. It's awful. Just awful. And then you have the Eagles too the next 3 weeks. I don't know. I can't wait to see the point spread on that game. Actually, no, I'm going to see what's going on right now. I got to see what the spread here is for Giants Eagles on Thursday. I don't know if it's out yet on FanDuel. Let's have a look here. It's taking forever to load, but please hold. We're gonna have the spread here momentarily because this has got to be diabolical. The spread on this game, because this is gonna be on national TV. This is the kind of game that's, if the coach gets fired midseason, this is one of the games that gets him fired. And then the search is going to start. Okay, FanDuel's just not loading for me. We're not going to get the spread. Great. Thank you, FanDuel, for making me look bad on this show. Thank you very much. As if things aren't going bad enough for me in sports, FanDuel just doesn't load when I'm trying to give a little factoid here. But yeah, the Giants, it's just going to keep getting worse because I have no reason to believe that it's not going to get worse. Because we're just one of those teams where the only thing that can happen is it getting worse. That'll be all for me on this team. Let's go to the other nightmare in this town that's somehow worse. I don't know how you can be worse than the Giants, let alone in the same town. I don't know how you can burrow lower than the Giants. But somehow, some way, the Jets have found a way to be worse and more of a circus and more of a comical just nightmare in cleats and pads. And I'm just going to, like, I have, like, this is my top thing here on my notes. This is a thing that people talk about. It's the same old Jets. Drink, same old Jets. No, the Joe Benigno, you can change the uniforms, you can change the owner, you can't change the team or whatever, just like that famous rant. But it's the same old Jets. It's the uniform. Dude, it's poison. And you see, and every time, it's so funny. Like, I'm gonna talk a lot about Aaron Glenn here because he was the second hottest coaching prospect in football after last year because the Lions were just seen as this godlike figure in how to rebuild a franchise because Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn essentially brought that franchise back from the dead after 30 years, honestly, after like 60 years, because the Lions were nothing until those guys showed up and revived them. And Aaron Glenn had that reputation as part of a regime that revived a dead franchise. And I don't know how else you can describe the Jets as a dead franchise, but in reality, they're not dead. They kill coaches. You hear about quarterbacks being coach killers. You hear about certain players and coordinators being coach killers. That is a franchise that has they're like the Dexter of the NFL when it comes to killing coaches and GMs and quarterbacks and anybody who associates themselves with that team. And I'm thinking about like Aaron Glenn, and every time the Jets have a coach that doesn't do well, there's always that one shot in a game where they're getting blown out and they have a terrible record. There's always that one sideline shot of the coach just looking like just spiritually drained and just a husk. Like, sure, there's a body there. It's physically alive, but it's spiritually dead. And there's always that one shot. You've seen it. You saw it with Todd Bowles. You saw it with Adam Gase. You saw it with Robert Saleh. And at some point, if it hasn't already happened, you're going to see it with Aaron Glenn. There's always one shot of a Jets head coach on the sideline during a game where his career as a head coach is shot. And you know he is thinking to himself, why did I take this job? Why did I think I could have possibly turned this around? And Aaron Glenn, he's another case where he thought he was going to be the Dan Campbell-like figure for the Jets. And he was brought in as a defensive mastermind. The Jets have given up, like, I think they're giving up close to 30 points a game. Like, they've lost games because of their defense. And it's just like they're losing to just like you have these games that they play. The last 2 weeks, there were games that they circled on their schedule. I talked about teams looking at the Giants as you better win this game. The Jets had 2 of those games back to back where it's like, if you want to be taken seriously, you better win this game. They faced the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. They got their teeth kicked in. They faced the Cowboys at home yesterday. They got their teeth kicked in too, despite a couple garbage time touchdowns. And now all of a sudden the Jets are staring down the barrel of 0-5. And you have a coach who's going to be gone after next year or the year after that. And a GM who's going to be gone at probably the same time. And we're going to repeat the cycle because it's the New York Jets. You know, it's funny. I was told before this to just like, and I knew I was coming in hot today because we're just like this town in sports is just in such a devoid, decrepit, awful place where I knew I was going to come in hot and I was going to rip all of these teams to shreds. I was just told before this, Robbie Basil was in the studio before this, you know, just chopping it up, talking and whatever. All he told me was, don't curse. And I'm telling you, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that I've held up for this long. I'm proud. I'm proud that I've held up to that end of the bargain because these teams are making it really hard. And you look at the Jets, and I'm going to talk about Aaron Glenn here a little more. I imagine how much that guy just hates his life right now. Imagine like being his wife and then like hearing him walk back after his day at work, probably coming in super late at night. No, she's probably in bed getting ready to go to sleep. And he walks in just with the most like deadpan look on his face. And then she asks him, "Oh, how was work, babe?" And then Aaron Glenn just looks at her and just asks her, and he tells her the same thing. "How do you think work was? I'm the coach of the New York Jets. How do you think my day at work was?" And, and this is what this franchise does to people. It kills them on a spiritual level in the likes of which that no other team does. It's special because there are teams that are frustrating. There are teams that are bad. There are teams that are frustrating. The Jets have somehow found a way to be all three at the same time. And everybody does it. We do it every year, every single year. And honestly, every single week, we say the same things because it's true. The last 40 years, New York sports radio has made a killing off the Jets being the Jets. There are guys who have made their entire careers off the Jets being the Jets. And I'm sure the guys, and I know I'm talking about some of these hosts on the Fan, some of these guys like podcasters, TikTokers, YouTubers. There is a subgenre on YouTube. There's a niche. It's just the Schadenfreude of the Jet fan. Just the emotional experience of being a Jet fan and documenting that. There is a niche on YouTube where if you are a Jet fan who is sad, which if you're a Jet fan, you are, and you're frustrated, and it's such a unique experience that if you have the capability to record and edit, and if you have the right equipment for it, you can do that. And if you're consistent enough and you know how to utilize social media, you're just like that. You get like 25,000 subs on YouTube. There are people who do it. I've seen it. There are two YouTubers I have in mind. Big Action Bill, who's mostly he's a Godzilla YouTuber. I love him. No, shout out to him. And the New York Jokes. There are these two guys. They're a father and son who their entire YouTube channel is them recording themselves live reacting to Jets games. And it is they get such good reactions, and the content is so good to where they have tens of thousands of subs. And literally all they do is turn on a camera and have a basic understanding of video editing that they have 25,000 subs just by being Jet fans. Or I think they have 20,000 subs. I haven't checked. But they have enough of a following to where they can be considered a successful YouTube channel. They have a successful platform. And all they are is Jet fans. And I'm sure that well is never going to dry up because the Jets are just the Jets. And it's amazing. And I guarantee, we're going to be here every single year. We've run on 40 years of this. The Jets have won. They won the Super Bowl in 1969. It's been a constant cycle since. Sure, there are a couple year breaks where they think they're good. They had Parcells. They had Rex Ryan. And yeah, we talk about, like, sure, everyone hated Rex Ryan when he was here. They haven't had a better coach since. I'm just throwing it out there. I've become I used to make fun of him a lot because I'm a Giants fan and I used to have standards because we used to be good. We used to be a model franchise, but like my standards have been lowered enough to where I look at Rex Ryan and I saw what he did with that organization where he brought them to the playoffs. They haven't been to the playoffs since he was the coach. And I think to myself, you know what? Someone should get him off the ESPN desk because I think if you give him a semi-competent franchise, he can take them to the conference championship game because we took the Jets there. And the Jets are anything but a well-run model franchise for the rest of the league to admire. They are the polar opposite of that. And sure, we talk about teams like the Browns, and honestly, the Browns are the only franchise you can compare to the Jets, or honestly, you compare them to the Giants at this point. The Jets it's unique. It's a unique level of misery that organization puts onto their fans. All right, that'll be all for the football segment here. We've still got around 10 minutes. We're going to come back. I didn't have this written down, but I want to talk some puck real quick because there's an area where we can have a tiny bit of hope, just a sliver of hope. Stay tuned. We'll be talking some puck next.
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, I'm Morgan Beastie from the Ionian, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Are you looking for the latest scoop on campus news, sports, and more? Check out the Ionian University's very own award-winning student newspaper. We keep you up to date with everything happening on and off campus. Want to know about the big game, the latest campus event? It's all in the Ionian. Join the conversation. Read, write, and get involved. Visit www.theionian.org or pick up a copy around campus. Stay informed, stay connected. Now, back to WIUR, Iona University Radio.
Have an announcement for a club or an event you would like to promote? Email President Robbie Basil or DM us on Instagram at WIUR_Gales Radio. No caps, no spaces with your post or announcement concept. So just want to round this up. Maybe have a little positive note here. Hockey is starting soon, and I love hockey. You're going to be hearing a lot of hockey from me, especially once baseball ends and once we get into the drier months of the sports season when we're just sick of football and baseball is not happening and the hot stove isn't hot. We're going to be talking a lot of puck here. And there's reasons to believe for all three of the teams around here, to be honest. Starting with the Rangers, even though I hate them more than a lot of other things on this planet as a Devils fan who grew up in Jersey and all that, there's reasons to believe, much as I hate to admit it. And honestly, that stems from having a new head coach because hockey, it works in such a strange way to where you can literally change the coach and it doesn't matter how good the coach really is or how much staying power they have. If you have a new coach, you can honestly turn your entire team around like that because like a new scheme, even just having a fresh voice in the room can elevate a team. They can win 10 more games just off that alone. And Mike Sullivan, two-time Stanley Cup champion, he's got a better resume than most coaches in this league. He stayed with the Pittsburgh Penguins for a decade. That's longer than most coaches stay with any team with the meat grinder and constant recycling that happens in the NHL with head coaches, which is fascinating to me. It's NHL coaching is like there are 40 guys who get the same 32 jobs and then all of a sudden it just changes. Like there are no assistant coaches who get elevated. It's just the same 40 guys who have been coaching since 1996 who have been getting the jobs. Like Mike Babcock is at some point is going to get hired again. I think it's fascinating to me. But yeah, the Rangers, they named JT Miller captain. I don't know how much I like it. JT Miller, he just got there. I know technically he's the longest tenured Ranger, but he got traded in 2017, I think, in the JT Miller, Ryan McDonough, swap for Vladislav Nemesnikov. Oh, boy, that was a bad trade. But, the Rangers, there's a lot of that going around. But I would have, me personally, if I was a Ranger fan, I would have named Trocheck captain. But you know what? They named Jacob Trouba captain, and honestly, I think anybody on that team being named captain is an improvement. And Miller at least seems like he cares about winning, which is the energy that those players need. Because there's talent there, but they just need to care. They've got Shesterkin. There's enough of a foundation there. They have enough talent to where they can elevate themselves, where they can be a divisional playoff team in the Metro. And I think they've got a pretty good shot. They've got cap space. Although the objective for the Rangers Like, it's blatantly obvious what they're trying to do. They're trying to clear up as much cap space as possible to make a run at McDavid when he hits the open market. And I cannot tell you a thing that I want to happen in sports less than seeing Connor McDavid put on a Rangers sweater. That might kill me if I see Connor McDavid put on a Rangers jersey. But anyways, like I think the Rangers have a pretty good chance to make it to the playoffs, and I think they're gonna like every year the Rangers. It's either they make it to the conference final or they miss the playoffs. It's no in between, and maybe it's like an even odd thing that they have. I don't know. It's weird, but anyways, on to the Islanders. I don't know. Like again, I say this a lot. The Islanders. I mean, who really cares about them? I mean, I don't really know who I can believe in. I mean, sure, Schaefer, there's a lot to believe in there. I think he's got the potential to be a top pairing defenseman. Obviously, he was the number one overall pick, but Schaefer, he can be a franchise cornerstone there. But I think they're still a couple years away from contending. And I know there's a lot of talk among the Islander fans like, hey, we can make a run this year. And sure, it's hockey, and hockey's a very stupid sport. But anything can happen. But let's go on to my team here real quick, the New Jersey Devils. And when I look at the teams who I root for the Giants, I root for the Yankees. I don't think either of those teams have a chance of winning a championship within the next 30 years. The Devils are honestly the only team that I can trust to maybe rise to the occasion because the core guys actually perform when it matters. I can trust Nico Hischier to play well in the playoffs, which he did last year when he was literally the only center they had. He performed. He showed up against a really good Carolina team. Although the Carolina Hurricanes, I don't know if you can really trust them to win a Stanley Cup. But they're always the preseason. Dude, sportsbooks clean up on people betting on the Hurricanes to win the cup. But the Devils, I mean, it all just rests on Jack Hughes' shoulder holding up for the whole year. And the defense is hurt, and there's a little bit I'm skeptical of. I really like the way Arseniy Griciuk has looked in the preseason. I think he can be a middle six guy. If he can be that extra winger that they have been trying to get, or I don't know if they've been trying to get a winger, because if they were trying, they would have gotten one already. But if he can be that winger that Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt need to really complete that line and make it a dominant offensive force that teams really can't stop, I wouldn't say no. We've seen it happen before. Guys coming over from the KHL and killing it. Kirill Kaprizov just got the biggest bag that any hockey player has ever gotten for being that guy. So who knows? I think he's got some good IQ. He's made some really good plays that a lot of seasoned pros make. And I'm optimistic. The Devils are normal. I can trust them to be normal. And I have my problems with Tom Fitzgerald. But again, I've said this a million times. NHL GMs are the stupidest people on earth. And Tom Fitzgerald, despite being very pragmatic and slow and not really knowing how to switch gears from rebuilding to contending, I still think he's better than half the GMs in the league, because NHL GMs, these guys they don't understand basic value in economics. They're hired because every franchise in this sport is a boys club, and they were a former player or they were friends with some guy in the front office, and they just want to, again, it's a boys club. It's big boys clubs everywhere, and they're stupid. And there's a reason, like Bill Zito, he signed Sam Bennett to an 8x8 extension. That is not a good move. But Bill Zito, I mean, he managed that team to back-to-back Stanley Cups. And so he's one of the smartest guys. And he's giving out contracts like that. So who knows? But yeah, the Devils, I can trust them to be normal. That is the standard of sports around here. If you're a franchise that is just normal and can run themselves in a semi-competent way, you are the beacon of hope. And that is what the Devils are. I would have had more to say, but this was just something that I kind of audibled to. But again, I think that'll be all for me. We're coming up on our deadline here. Thank you so much for tuning in, whoever did. And we'll be back same time next week, 11 a.m. on Mondays. Once again, from the studios of WIUR Gales Radio, I have been Cam Woolley keeping you company here heading into lunchtime. And as always, take care. Have a good week.